On that day, during the big training exercise of the 3rd Infantry Division, the engine of the Joint Light Tactical Vehicle sputtered, lost power in the middle of the yard, and thick black smoke poured from the exhaust every time they tried to restart it. The exercise was just a few hours away, and no one could figure out how to fix it. But the base janitor, standing nearby with his cleaning cart, knew exactly what to do. Robert Carver, Bob to everyone, was one of the janitors at Fort Stewart, Georgia. His day started before sunrise when the first soldiers were just stepping out of their barracks for morning training. He lived on base, in an old building now used for staff housing. Bob was responsible for keeping the bathrooms, hallways, and common areas clean, but anyone seeing him pushing that cleaning cart would never guess that, for more than 30 years, he had been a military vehicle mechanic. Bob grew up on a farm in rural Georgia, where he learned to fix tractors and trucks before he even learned how to drive. After joining the Army, he spent nearly 4 decades with the 3rd Maintenance Support Battalion. He knew every bolt, every system, every quirk of military vehicles. Before retiring, Bob had worked in other states directly on the development and maintenance of heavy Army vehicles, trucks, and, in his later years, the new JLTV, a modern armored Jeep designed to replace the Humvee. But now, at 67, life had taken him through some hard times. As a janitor, all he could do was watch from a distance the military routine that had shaped his life for so many years. Once a respected specialist, Bob had become an invisible worker. Every morning he greeted the mechanics already at work, grabbed his cleaning supplies, and started his rounds. He watched, listened, worked. He had become part of the background, present but unnoticed, needed but not acknowledged. Still, Bob never complained. He accepted his new role without bitterness. He worked with the quiet dignity of someone who had done his part and now found meaning in simpler tasks. He didn't feel diminished by cleaning. His worth hadn't changed, only his job had. He was still the same man who had kept military vehicles running for decades. Now, he kept the spaces clean for those who did that job. That morning, the base yard was busier than usual. The 3rd Infantry Division was preparing for a major training exercise. Vehicles were being fueled, loaded, checked. Among them was a Joint Light Tactical Vehicle parked near the main yard. Bob pushed his cleaning cart like he did every day. He walked past the side of the hangar, heading toward the locker rooms when he noticed a group of mechanics gathered around the JLTV. The hood was up. One of the guys had a tablet hooked up to the vehicle's system. Another was inspecting parts. They were talking, frowning, frustration written all over their faces. Bob kept walking, but he paid attention. The JLTV's Duramax V8 engine was acting up. Every time they tried to start it, the sound was off. The engine lost power when revving, and black smoke puffed from the exhaust with each attempt. Bob was sweeping nearby. He stopped, leaned the broom against the wall, and slowly walked closer, just watching at first. He asked if he could get a closer look, then bent slightly, listening carefully to the engine. The techs thought it was an injection problem. They ran the scanner on the tablet, reset some codes. Nothing worked. The engine kept failing, but Bob saw something they hadn't noticed. With the hood open, when the engine turned over, he caught a small but telling detail: black smoke with acceleration stutters and a return hose shaking more than it should. To him, that was a classic sign of excessive fuel pressure. Most likely, the relief valve on the fuel pump was stuck, maybe clogged by debris from contaminated diesel. With the valve blocked, the pump kept pushing fuel even when it wasn't needed, flooding the engine and causing the dark smoke. Bob had dealt with this issue before. It wouldn't show up on the scanner, but it was an easy fix. Remove the valve, clean out the clogged channel carefully, replace the seal, reinstall it with the right torque, then check the system pressure with the scanner. A small adjustment, but one that made all the difference. For younger techs raised on tablets and digital diagnostics, this kind of mechanical failure, caused by dirt in a hydraulic component, was easy to miss. Bob didn't want to interfere. After all, he was just the janitor now. He went back to his work, but inside he knew he couldn't just ignore it. That JLTV wasn't going anywhere until that engine ran right, and no one there seemed to know what was really wrong. Bob did. But that morning he was still just the man pushing the cleaning cart. Bob had just finished cleaning the locker room and was walking back down the side hallway when he heard the engine sputter again. The same sound as before, the same burst of black smoke coming from the exhaust. The JLTV was still parked in the yard. The hood was open. 2 soldiers from the maintenance team standing around, tugging at cables and talking quickly over the radio. It was already the 3rd attempt. Nothing worked. When the tech turned the key, Bob saw exactly what he needed to see. A thin hose deep inside the engine shaking more than it should. That wasn't normal. A hose only vibrates like that when it's getting too much fuel. Up ahead, the radio crackled with a firm voice. The colonel needs that JLTV ready by 2 o'clock. It's the command mission vehicle. Without it, everything gets delayed. Bob took a deep breath. He knew how this worked. In moments like this, panic creeps up your spine, and rushing to fix something you don't fully understand only makes things worse. But he knew exactly where the problem was. And it wasn't complicated. He set the rag down on his cart and stepped forward. "Excuse me. The issue is probably the high-pressure pump relief valve," Bob said, calm and certain. The 2 soldiers turned toward him. One of them held the tablet, scanner open but showing no clear fault codes. "Sorry, who are you?" "I'm the janitor here, but I know this engine well. The fuel pump is pushing too much diesel into the system, flooding the engine and causing that dark smoke. The valve that should release the excess might be stuck, probably from residue in the fuel." The younger one frowned. "But the panel isn't showing anything." "It doesn't always. If the pressure spikes only at startup, the sensor won't throw an immediate code. Look at that return hose. It's pulsing hard. That's a clear sign of overpressure." The older soldier grabbed a flashlight, crouched down, and checked. And there it was. The return line on the valve was clogged with fine debris from poorly filtered diesel. No scanner could catch it, no dashboard warning light, but it was there. Bob explained without arrogance. "Clean the valve with a diesel system spray, replace the sealing ring, tighten it to the proper torque, and before starting again, check the pressure on the scanner. 5 minutes and this V8 will run smooth." The 2 soldiers exchanged a look. One nodded, finally understanding. A few feet away, Sergeant Smith was watching quietly, curious about why the janitor was solving a problem that was supposed to be the soldier's job. One of them carefully removed the valve, cleared the clogged channel with a pressure spray, reassembled it, and drained the excess diesel. Then they started the engine again. This time the sound was clean, no sputtering, no smoke. The engine climbed to 2,500 RPM and held steady, solid just as it should. The younger soldier looked at Bob and gave him a sheepish smile. "That was really it?" Bob just shrugged. "These engines are strong, new tech, but sometimes a simple thing throws everything off. It happens." He went back to his cart, picked up the rag, and kept wiping the windows where he'd left off, as if nothing had happened. But deep down, everyone there knew. If that JLTV was running that day, it was because the janitor fixed it. A few minutes later, that JLTV was already lined up with the other vehicles in the open field north of the base. It was the start of the 3rd Infantry Division simulation exercise. Officially, no one said anything about the repair. The report simply stated the problem had been resolved without further issues. Later, while Bob was collecting trash near the maintenance sector, he heard someone call his name. "Bob Carver?" It was Sergeant Smith. He was standing next to a pickup truck holding a piece of paper. "The commander wants to see you, now." Bob wiped his hands on his pants, nodded, and followed the sergeant. They walked to the administrative building, climbed 2 flights of stairs, and stopped in front of an office. The sergeant knocked. "Mr. Bob Carver, sir." Inside, Colonel Kenneth Bowden looked up. He was seated at a desk covered with reports and monitors. One of the screens showed the progress of the exercise. "Come in." Bob stepped inside slowly and stayed standing. The colonel watched him for a moment before speaking. "I've been told you solved a very important problem for us today. You served, didn't you?" Bob glanced at the folder on the desk. He recognized his own name printed there, with dates from long ago. "Yes, sir." The colonel opened the file to a marked page. Then Bowden stood, walked to a cabinet and came back with a small box. Inside was a plastic card, with printed text on the front and military insignias on the back. This is a Level 3 pass. It gives you access to specific maintenance areas. Bowden looked at him. You can remain a janitor, if you wish, but from now on I'd like you to be part of our mechanical engineering team whenever needed. Your salary will be fully adjusted. Bob held the card, staring at it for a few seconds. Bowden spoke in a lower tone. The truth is, we have modern equipment, but not enough people with your kind of experience. The colonel extended his hand. For Bob, it felt like the past had stepped back into the present. At 67, he knew he couldn't let this opportunity pass. After all, this was what he had loved and dedicated his life to. He didn't mind being a janitor and would keep doing it. What mattered was that for the first time in years, his knowledge was being valued, not as nostalgia from a bygone era, but as something current and useful. Bob shook the colonel's hand firmly. When do I start? The next day, Bob was back at work before sunrise. Same uniform, same steady steps through the hallways and across the base yard. But something felt different. When he walked past the workshop, two young techs stopped talking. One straightened his posture. The other simply nodded, the way someone does when they're looking at a respected teacher. He was still pushing the cleaning cart, but now, clipped to his shirt pocket, he also carried a card that read, Technical Team, Level 3. During his break, he walked along the side of the base. The JLTV was parked outside, ready for its next mission. Bob paused for a moment, looked at the vehicle, silent, then calmly made his way to the maintenance area. One of the supervisors pointed toward a corner of the workshop. Bob, we've got an old Humvee engine over there that's acting up. Think you can take a look? We've got a few recruits who want to learn from you. Bob glanced at the young faces, and in their expressions he saw something he hadn't seen in a long time. Respect, recognition, genuine curiosity. Bob gave a faint smile, opened the toolbox and started working. The same way he always had, the way he always knew how. And that's how Bob Carver found his place in the world again. Not as the man he used to be, but as the man he still was. His experience had never lost its worth. It had only been waiting for the right moment to be recognized by those willing to learn with humility. Because Bob had learned something too. A man's true value isn't in the uniform he wears, but in the knowledge he carries, and in his willingness to share it. If you enjoyed this story, click the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next.